Hey guys, this is Chodaros, and I've got a brand new tutorial for you from the great MS Loom on Instagram. Another wonderful design that she has created, and this one's called the Antoinette bracelet. So it is a 6-pin loom design, and it's not difficult. Doesn't take too much time. The only time consuming part is just adding the beads to your bands, and it can also be done without any type of beads at all. So as you can see on mine, which I'm trying to nonchalantly show you how it sparkles, I don't think it picks up on camera as much, but I really wanted to make one that was pretty elegant. So I think I might have achieved that look here. So these beads you can find at your local craft stores, like AC Moore, Michaels, Joanne. They will be in the description box below. And I used the silicone white to thread those on. So the bands that we're going to use for the X's, those are glitter white, and you might not be able to see, but the bands that have the side bling on them, they are the sweets white. So they have I'm sorry, is it sweets? That's sweets, I'm sorry. So they have like a glittery look to them. And my border bands are the Rainbow Loom limited edition pearl white, I believe. So every band on here is white, except the border, you can tell it has a little bit of a faint difference to it. So this one here is a full wrap. Okay, so this was done on 2 full looms. If you're going to just use one loom, it's suggested for you to have 12 beaded bands, because it will go just like the Josephine bracelet. There's a bead on each band, or on the center pegs, and if you're going to do a full wrap, then you just double that, which would make it 24. So on the sides you also will be adding a bead. In my case I added seed beads. So a couple big things you need to know is you will be moving these. Okay, so when we take this off the loom, these beads may be back here, we don't know. So with that being said, you want to make sure that you have a bead on this band that is easy for you to slide. If not, your band will break. Trust me, they don't call me the bling queen for nothing. I have broken a ton. Also, this band with this, if you can see, it's wrapped around the perimeter band. Okay, that needs to be a very durable band because we're going to be stretching it. So these are just my words of advice, since I've done the bracelet quite a few times, and then finally now for the tutorial, just to make sure that you're properly prepared. So in order to have enough for the sides, you're putting 2 on each side. So if you need 12 for one loom, you would need 24 for your side beads, and obviously if you're doing 2 looms, you will need 48. Okay, so those will need to be on your bands before we start the tutorial. So you might want to go ahead and get those on your bands, and then we will meet up here and get started. Okay, so in order to start this bracelet, we need to have our loom set up in a 6-pin configuration with all of them at the same height, like this. And I must show you, I had just gotten the Valentine's kit from Rainbow Loom, and it includes the 6-pin bar base. So it is wonderful. There's 2 in the kit, and this is so secure. And if you've watched my Le Couronne tutorial, you'll know what I mean, how happy I could possibly be. So this is 2 looms long, and that should be for a full wrap. What you will need before you begin is, well, first I'll show you up the center of the bracelet we will have a bead. So this is the bead that I've chosen, which I will have in the description box below. This one is probably about 8 millimeter in diameter. You probably want to not go any larger than maybe 10 millimeter. So if we're doing 1 loom, you'll need 12. If you're doing 2 looms, you'll need 24. So I have 24. And these are 6/0 in size seed beads. And they have a bit of a metallic or like a silver shine to them. I'm hoping you can see. It seems to be very light in here for some reason. And these are going to go on the perimeter of the bracelet. So if we're going to be putting one on both sides, then we need to double our count than we had for the middle ones. So then you will be needing, well, if you're doing 12, just 1 loom, you'll need 24. But if you're doing 24, then you would need 46. Or 24. You would need 48 to go on the sides. Okay, so again, that needs to be already done before you begin the tutorial. So if you need to go ahead and add your beads, you can come back and loom up. So I'd like to do mine this time in all white. So we'll see what this is going to look like. I chose the limited edition pearl white and the glitter white, as well as the new Sweets white. Okay? Alright, so whatever color that you want to go on your perimeter, we're just going to do the first row. So this is a little bit abnormal. When we do the perimeter, typically we would go and we do the whole loom up, but we're going to do it in 3 steps. So the first step is just to do the front row, the perimeter. Second step will be to do the sides, and then the last step will be to do the back row. Okay, so I'm going to use these white pearl LE bands. So I'm going to place one in the center of all of these pegs here, so it would be 3 and 4, and that will be for capping purposes. So then I'm going to go over 2 to the right, or to the left, and then over another 2 to the right. Okay, so you want to loop them, you want to place them in that order. So first would be your band that we're going to use to cap with, and then you want to go left, right, in that order. So you don't want to place them where you're starting and then going in. Alright, so that's the end of the perimeter for this step. So our next step will be to add our X bands. We're going to add 2 sets going down our loom. Okay, so these are going to be on the 2nd and 3rd pin bar, and then the 5th and 4th pin bar. So these 2 right here, the 4 inner ones, I guess you could say, this is where we're going to be placing X bands. Okay, so that's pretty typical looming. So, you know, my rule of thumb is if the first band I lay to my X is from left or from right to left, every single band I lay from here on out, the first one should be from left to right. So if you stick with the pattern, when you go to loop it, it will always be the same band you're looping that's on top. And this bracelet does not take a lot of time, as long as you have all of your supplies ready as far as your beads. And this bracelet does not require, it is not mandatory to use any type of beads. You can also do this bracelet with no added bling at all. It will come out just as nice. Or if you want to add the look of bling but you don't have it, you can always use a cap band in its place. You would just wrap a band about 4 or 5 times just to make it nice and tight, and then slide that on top of a band, and that would act the same as if you were placing a bead on a band. So you could also have that type of a look as well. Super excited to do this bracelet for you. It's a beautiful, it's very beautiful. I'm a huge fan of MS Loom, so you know, she tells me how I've inspired her to start blinging, but yet I look at her like she's a mentor. So I think it's really cool. We learn off each other all the time, and we collaborate a lot. So alrighty, let's go ahead and take that all the way up into the end, like that. Okay, so we just simply added X bands going up the 2nd and 3rd pegs of our loom, and we're going to do the same exact on 4th and 5th pegs. Okay, same exact thing, just adding X bands. So remember, if you start right to left, then continue left to right. Whichever way you start your X's, continue that. Makes it a lot easier when you go to loop. So if you choose not to watch me add them to my loom, you can always pause, and whenever you're finished, fast forward it to the end, or you can add your bands with me. But always remember, you have that choice. Oh, it's so nice to add these bands. They don't twist, they go on neatly. You can put them on quickly, the good old days. Alright, we are almost done placing our X bands, and I always provide the link down below for the designer, so I highly suggest that you check out MS Loom so you can see the original design and the color schemes that she uses, and that will give you a good idea if you're interested in adding, you know, certain colors and whatnot. So again, just 2 rows of X bands, and that completes that step. Okay? Alright, so if you want to change up your colors, okay, like these X bands would be one color. Now we're getting ready to add single row up both of these pin bars. So that would be a different color, and then that color will coordinate with bands that we're going to place in. So I'll explain that to you, but you see me using white, but you see me using different types of bands. So this would be considered one color. The border will be one, X bands would be another, single chain, and then our bands out here would be another color. So essentially it would be like 3 bands that you would use. Alright, so for my single chain going up the middle, which like I had mentioned, we're going to do 2. So it's going to be on the 3rd and 4th pin bar. We're just going to add a single chain going up both sides. I just like to do mine at the same time. I think it kind of possibly goes a tad faster. And I'm not like a really big fan of editing my tutorials, so I try to do it all in one cut. So I know it's a 2 loom, but the other thing is, which I should have mentioned, but it would be in the description box anyhow, is that whatever color that you're using for these single chains will be the color that you should place your beads on, that are going to go in the center of your bracelet. It doesn't have to be, but that's just how the original design is. That's how Miss Loom has done hers. And when you're adding bling, excuse me, to the outer bands, you want to definitely make sure that you're using a strong band, and 100% make sure that your bead on that band can be moved around, because we have to reposition those beads when we pull it off of the loom. So you don't want to put something on that's so tight that if you have to move it a tad, it's going to break the band, which trust me, it'll happen. So you'll know once you're putting it on. But I love seed beads because they're tiny, but they have a nice size hole. Alright, so we're coming up to the end of this, and we're going to go ahead and add these all the way to the last peg, like that. Alright, so this is what you should have so far. Oop. Okay, so let's add our what do you call it? Our center bling bands. We'll call them that. Okay? So, like I said, one loom would be 12, and 2 looms would be 24. So, we're going to go ahead and start at the second pin in on the 3rd and 4th pin bars, and every single, we're going to put it on every single pin all the way up the center, so we're not skipping any. So if you're not sure about your bead, when you place it in here, if it fits in between these pegs like this, you're in good shape. You don't want anything that's going to be so large that it's going to, you know, pop over like that or sit up like that. It should be a nice space, you know, in between 2 pegs. That should be your guide. So, and then remember, when you're adding your bead to your band, that you're putting that bead right in the center. So these I know I purchased at Michael's, and they come on a string, which I have the link below, and I love them. They come in black, dark gray, white, silver, dark blue, and they're sparkly, so they're pretty cool. You know, and you can also do, you know, in your rendition, you could also put these every other if you want. You know, like if you only have, say, 5 beautiful beads, you could count where the 5 would be the center of the whole bracelet and just put your beads on those 5 pegs. And again, if you don't have any beads, you could always wrap a cap band and put the cap band in the middle of that band, and it would look just like as if you had a bead, especially if you did like black, something dark where you could really think it was a bead, but it would also just give you a different look. Alright, so I've got 2 left. Like so. And we are complete. So one thing I'm going to do, since I'm down here already, is we want to place a band that's going from this peg here diagonally to the left. That's for later use. Okay, so we just want to do that and be done with that. Okay, so we should have all of our bling put in the center of our loom, and now we can go ahead and add our bling to the perimeter of the bracelet. So, you know, when we do add bling, we always want to make sure that it is in the center, right? But when we're adding this onto our loom, what we want to do is we want to go from the second pin bar and place one end of the band, and then we want to pull it, and in that same space you want to add it to the left pin bar, okay? And that leaves your bead hanging on the outside like that, okay? So again, we want to take one side of our beaded band, so hold one side of your beaded band. The open side we want to put on this second pin bar peg, and we want to stretch it, and in that same hole we want to add that first pin bar to it as well. Okay, that's it. Just make sure it's in that same space, and you have this part hanging over the edge. So obviously normally we add our pins, we add our bling like this. We put one side on one peg and the other on the other side on the other peg. But we're putting 2 pegs in one loop of our bling band. So that's why I was kind of suggesting earlier, you want to use a stretchy, a good band that has elasticity to it for this step, because you are going to be stretching it even more. And definitely, like whenever I move this, it moves very easily. Okay, now that's kind of a must. If your band doesn't, if your bling doesn't do that, you're most likely, when you go to move it on your bracelet when we're finished, to break break your band. And I've done it, I can't even count how many times. So if I ever give you guys any suggestions, it's because I screwed up and I don't want you guys to do the same. Alright, so we're going to do that up into the second to the last peg. Okay, and we're not going to add one there. So you want to turn your loom to the other side, and you want to do the exact same thing, starting with the second peg in. Adding it to this pin first, and then stretching it onto that one. And even though you kind of want to, in your mind, you're like, oh, I should move my bead over. No, don't move your bead over. Leave your bead in the middle of that band and just stretch it, because we have a step we need to do with this part of the band that's hanging off the end. Uh-oh, it's like I miscounted. How did that happen? I don't know if I'm going to have enough. Looks like I'm missing a couple. Uh-oh. I'm missing 2 of them. Well, that's not good. I know I did enough. Oh, you see what I just did? Because I wasn't paying attention? Jeez. There we go. Well, I guess I shall go find it. But we'll do one more step we'll do our last step. So this is what your loom should look like. So you have a whole bunch of bands hanging off the edge with a bead holding it onto the peg. So our last step, which is totally backwards than what we're used to doing, is we're going to add our border. Okay, so our border goes on top of the bands that we just placed. Okay, now we're only going to add that border we're going to go up both sides of our loom. So remember, we already added the border in the front. So then you start from the side and just take a single chain all the way up. Wow, I sure hope this isn't too light. Jeez, it just seems so light. Okay, so we can take our border band up right there. We are done placing all other bands, so we can go ahead and take a band in, and then we want to take one more band in like that. Okay, so these three go to the left side, and then we simply turn our loom and we do the exact same thing on the right side. I kind of want to go find those bands. Okay, so I guess I can just show you. And if you didn't catch on, if you don't want to put bling on your bracelet, all you simply do is just add single bands, just like that. That's it. Okay, this is nothing. You just add single bands, and the same goes for the middle bands. You can just add a single band across. So you are able to, and I've done it. The first one I did was just with no bling, because I always want to see if it can be done and if it's worth sharing, you know. So I'm just going to put 2 plain bands there, and then again you want to take your 2 bands to meet in the center. Alright, we are done placing all of our bands. So this is what your loom should look like. So we want to do a recap. The first bands that we placed were our border bands across the first row, and then we laid 2 sets of X bands on the second and third, fourth and fifth peg, and then after that we added 2 single chains up the third and fourth row, and then we added our bling bands in the middle, and then we went ahead and added our bling bands across from the first and second and fifth and sixth pegs, and last we put our border bands around. So if you are to that step, it is now time to loom our bracelet. So we want to turn it around, okay, and we need to add a cap band. So I want to do mine the same color as my border. So when I have to do 2 pegs, I like to just wrap my cap band around 1 peg, and then just stick my hook in and grab that cap band and just pull it over like that. Well, my camera stops for some reason after I'm taping for so long, so in my little bit of a break after it stopped, I went and grabbed 2 more of those seed beads and replaced the ones on the end. Okay, so when we begin looping our bands, the first band that we want to loop are the first row of our perimeter. Okay, so we want to go inside of this cap band. You can either start with the left or right, and you want to grab the top band and pull it over back to itself, and again top band, which is the perimeter, back to this corner, and then we stop there. Okay, so we go into this side, top, over, top, over. Okay, so now we are done with our perimeter in the beginning, and then we can continue to loom forward. So the next band that we're going to loop, remember we placed this diagonal band here. We want to take this band and we're going to take it off this peg and just bring it forward. And so that helps us get a cross right there because we don't have a bead on that band. So that just helps kind of keep it in unison when we go to loom. So this is just like the Josephine and the Marie, I'm sorry, I'm having a mind blank. When we're looming the beads in the middle, we're going to go in and grab the beaded band and pull that band forward on both sides. Okay? So when we bring that band forward, it's going to create the cap band for the next bead in line. So you're just going to go underneath, grab the top band, which is the beaded band, and just pull it forward. Okay? And those are going to go all the way up our loom in that order. You can do one side at a time, or you could do one bead at a time. It's easier to go up one side, I think, but okay, so that is really going to secure your bead right inside of that area, and they're not going to go anywhere. Whoopsie. I didn't loom this one up. Alright, so these will go all the way up into the last pegs on our loom. So last one goes all the way up like that. So we have more to do on those two pegs, so we want to make sure that everything is pushed down. Like that. Okay, now this is going to be awkward, but our next step is to loom up our perimeter. Okay, so we already loomed our perimeters to the corners, so all we do now is we're going to loom it straight up, but we're going to end at the last peg of the row. We're not going to do the end bands up on top. We're just going to loom straight. Okay, so after you get out of this first one, remember your perimeter band is the top band. Your bottom band is this band here. Okay, so don't go all the way down to the bottom like we always do for a perimeter. Perimeter is on top. So this is just a normal chain. forgot to put a perimeter band there. It's kind of weird, huh? So I shall add one. And this one's going to go on top. Like that. Alright, so we are going to only go up to this last peg on the first pin bar. We are not going to loop any of these back here because we have to wait until we get all of these bands on the last pegs. So you go ahead and push all of those down, and you're going to repeat the same thing on the right side of your loom. So remember, we already did to the end. Okay, there. Then we stop at that end as well. So we just loomed up our border bands just on the sides. So the only thing left on our perimeter is the back bands. Okay? So our next step is to take over all of these bands we have hanging off the sides here. So there's whatever way is comfortable for you is the way that you need to do it. The most comfortable way for me is I like to take this. Now I made sure I had enough space hanging off. If you don't have very much space, you can take your hook, pull on it, and move that bead closer to that peg. But the whole goal is we have to stretch this band. It has to go over top of this first peg, and then it has to go over top this second peg. Okay, so you want to make sure that that bead is in the middle of that band, so you're equally stretching the band. There isn't more on the bottom than there is on the top, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm stretching, making sure I have enough band, putting it over the first and second pegs. So it's essentially looping it back the way we put it. You could also put it on with your fingers if that's easier for you, but I find this to be the easiest. And mine is a little bit shorter. I'm going to pull it out and make sure that it's even. But in the end, when we take this off of our loom, we're going to have to adjust these beads. So you don't really have to put much effort into where the beads are being placed right now, like if one's hanging over one side not equal or whatever, because we'll have to adjust them. So If you did not have a bead on this band, then you would just simply take the band from underneath this peg and then loop it up and over like that. Okay, so you could still do this. You don't have to have a bead on the end of the band, and it will still do the exact same thing that it's going to do with a bead. You loom this bracelet exactly like we are, and just minus a bead, and you'll have the same look. See, like this one's a little short, so I want to pull it so I have a lot on here, and then I know my band is straight. It's still super simple, and that's what I like about it. Move my stuff. Alright, so this is our last one. Our last one is second to the last two pegs. Okay? So just make sure that those are pressed down, because we still have some more looping to do on top. Now see, this one here is caught, so I want to make sure it's all the way on the peg, and again press this down. So after, look at that, I missed one. But you know the best thing is that it's not connected to anything. So if you miss one, just go ahead and loop it over. So that was a great thing that it's not connected to anything. Alright, I think you guys are well on your way, so I think I can let you guys do this side, and then we can meet back whenever you guys are finished, and we'll go to the next step. Okay, so we should be done looming up all of our side bands here with our beads. I am so sorry, it seems to be so bright. Okay, so you always want to have your sides beads to be smaller than your inside if you can, because you want your focus to be on the inside and you want this to be like a highlight bead. Okay, so we have 2 more steps to go, and then we're going to be done. So our next step is the 2 single chains going up the 3rd and 4th pin bars. We're going to loom those all the way up, but they're not going back to themselves. So we want to go into this 3rd pin bar here and grab the top band, which is the band that goes straight. But we're not going to take it to that peg. We're going to take it to the left upper peg here. Okay? And the same thing for this right center. We want to grab the top band, and instead of taking it straight, we're taking it diagonally to the right. Okay? And you can see that it forms that crisscross or diagonal shape. So we're going to do that the whole way up our loom. So you go into the next one, the top band, and take it up to the left. Up to the left. So you got to be careful, because underneath this band is your zigzag band. So you want to make sure you're grabbing this top band and not going underneath and grabbing any of the others. It's hard for me to loom this way, but if you guys can see better, that's all that matters. I should be starting out on the other side. So, seems simple enough, this bracelet, I think. What do you guys think? It's not too difficult if you've been a loomer for some time. It's pretty simple. And I must tell you how impressed I am that my loom is not buckling one bit on the inside. These 6 pin bar bases are awesome. And if I were to take a wild guess, I'm going to push these down. I'm going to guess that they're going to sell them in the web store. I mean, that's just my opinion. But being something so useful, I mean, that's the only reason I pretty much bought the kit. Alright, so we're just going to do the same up the right side. Top band. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I don't think I did the right band on that one, so I'm going to put it back, give it a twist. When you twist your hook around the peg, it puts all the bands back in the right order. Unless I must have used one of these bands instead of the other colors. So it was right, but it's just I placed the wrong band on there. Oh well. Alrighty, last one up to the top. Okay, so we want to push all of those down, and then our last step is to do the 2 zigzags going up the center, and we will be ready to pull it off our loom. So we have got a lot of open bands on our bracelet right now. Okay, we have open bands going all the way up these pegs, so we definitely need these zigzag bands, these X bands. We definitely need them to secure our bracelet. So we're kind of securing it from the inside out, and typically we secure it with our perimeter band on the outside, but that's what we're going to do here. Is we're going to go, so and the first time I do my X's, I always like to take the bottom band first and then loop that over. Then I take the top band and loop that over. Now from here on out, I take the top X band. Okay? Always want to take the top every single time. Then the bottom. It does make a difference whenever your bracelet is finished. You will be able to tell if you put a top on, then a bottom, then a bottom and a top. So just always make sure that your top is loomed first. So I have to tell you that the first loomer to bling with me has been Artisan Loom. She has been by my side since I started, and she's known as the bead queen, as everyone started calling me the bling queen. So Artisan Loom loves to use seed beads. So I'm actually going to put her link below. And so when I had my Bling for Breast Cancer contest, she made the most gorgeous bracelet that I've ever seen, and it's called the Wedding Bliss. And so actually that's the bracelet that won for the Bling for Breast Cancer. She did it in breast cancer colors. But the best thing of all is that she actually sent me the Wedding Bliss bracelet as a gift. So I was just like, I wore that thing every day and whatnot. It's my favorite bracelet. So, can't lose my place. So I had an opportunity to go to the Rainbow Loom headquarters to talk with June and Finn and Kristen and all of them. And of course I bring them gifts. I love to, you know, bring them gifts, bracelets. And that one I wore that day. And so I figured, okay, if it's on my arm, nobody can have it. Everyone's going to know it's on my arm. It's not a gift. Well, guess who has it now? Miss Finn. She grabbed that one up so quick. So I don't have my Wedding Bliss one anymore from Artisan Loom. So let's start on this side. And so I figured, well, I'm just going to go ahead and make one similar in color and kind of have one that looks like it, I guess we'll say. So that's what inspired me to do all white on this bracelet. But you can look at her account and you will find the Bridal Bliss bracelet. It is beautiful. Such a beautiful, and it's an original design, which 99% of her bracelets are original design. But yeah, she's my buddy, definitely my buddy since the beginning. She's excellent too. Then my second buddy was Crazy Just Might Work, and we all know I'm CEO of her fan club. She's a perfect person to me. So we all motivate each other to keep looming and doing our best, and we definitely help each other out as much as possible. So there's no stealing, there's no bullying, there's no negative behavior. It is constantly, you know, who needs help and what can I do, and that's how it should be. Okay? This bullying crap is getting out of hand. It really is. If it's all about, I invented something first, shoot, take my design and say it's yours. If that's going to stop it, go. I don't care. I mean, my designs, I love that they're considered mine, but in the long run, the whole point is to get other people to create them. So, if you're going to help do that, by all means. But I will say this. If I find out certain people are bullying and I can see the proof, if you are any of my friend on any of my social media, you will be automatically blocked and deleted and will not be allowed to on anything, whether it be YouTube, Pinterest, Facebook, nothing, because I don't tolerate it. Nobody should. So that's one of my support tactics for bullying. So I hope that none of you watching do that certain behavior. Oh my, we're almost complete. Choo-choo train. Zig. You hear the train? All right, one more to go and then we are done. Awesome. All right, so we have loomed our bracelet. So the only thing we have left to do is to do these sides up into the 2 center pegs. So we go on this side, do our border band over, and then do our next border band over, and then we stop there and go over to the left side and do the same, border over, down all the way to the bottom, border over. Okay, so you want to grab your C-clip. And remember that we placed that extra band down on the center 2 pegs. So we want to go down into the 3rd peg and grab that bottom band and pull it up. And attach your C-clip. And then we want to go into the 4th peg, and grab the same exact band, but it is on the bottom. Pull it up and then attach it to our C-clip. I believe it's in. Okie dokie. So I dare you never pull this thing off of your loom. We're taking it off. Okay, so whichever way you choose to take it off, as far as if you want to do every pin or just your border, I'm pulling every single one off. You can end this part of the tutorial and I'll say thanks for watching, see you next time, or you can take it off with me. But I like to do this on camera so I can encourage others to do the same. Okay, going to this side. Now I'm going to do this whole row to alleviate the tension on that cap band. And now just this outer row on the left. So you can definitely fast forward or exit. Or my battery can run out. That's ready to go too. Okay, so we can do the whole middle. That's these 4 rows and just work our way up. And then you get a sneak peek. And watch these bands that like to catch on the corners, because it will essentially stretch your bands out if you keep them stuck on the corners. And we want to pray to God that we didn't miss any bands or the whole thing falls apart. I'm liking it so far. I know it's super boring. Well, I know it's super boring to watch someone take off their bracelet, but you can always fast forward or leave. But I like to watch this when someone else does it and see the transformation. So this bracelet like took me 4 days to figure out what colors I was going to use. 4 days. That's how long it takes me. I'm not good with color combos at all. Not at all. And then finally at like 4 in the morning last night, I was like, oh, how about white? Okay, we're getting close to the end here. My battery's going dead. Okay, so if you have your C-clip on, then you can go ahead and take all of the bands off. And let's see what we have. Let's see, this is